going on, guys? Today we are back with another video, and yeah, it's a beautiful fall day. The air is crisp, the water is cooling, it is fall. How can you beat it, right? And we're gonna do a little bit different kind of video today. We're definitely gonna, hopefully, I would say, catch some walleyes. It has been kind of a struggle up here. We've been finding a lot of fish and not getting to eat a lot. I'll be real with you guys, it has been real tough, but we're gonna get it done today. We're gonna get it done with one of my favorite lures, the Acme Hyper Rattle. And yeah, we're hopefully gonna snap jig a bunch of these walleyes. But what we're really gonna talk about is fall transition, right? This could be an incredibly tough time of year to get on fish and stay on them, right? Because they can be in a lot of different locations, and that's what we're gonna talk about. We're kind of gonna run through like 3 locations in which I look for fish in this early fall period. Now we got water temps that are 61 out here today. They've been dropping like a rock. It's kind of warmed up a little bit this week, but we've had water temps that, you know, definitely these fish are feeling fall. They're feeling it coming. And a lot of times when I talk about transition, what I'm talking about is pre-turnover fishing, right? Or this transition period where we have the water go from the low 70s down to like, you know, mid to upper 50s, and then through that 60-degree range, right? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about today, the 3 locations in which I find these fish this time of year. And yeah, we're going to get to snap jigging some deep water fish. We're not going to be fishing all these locations today, but we're going to be fishing some deep water fish and hopefully catching some walleyes. Stay tuned. Fish on the first cast. That is too awesome. Right away. Does not get much better than that. I think we probably got the right fish on here. I'm gonna go for the old boat flip. There he is. Came off just like many of them do. Beautiful. About 16-inch walleye right there. But for the first cast, we'll take it. It's fall. How you gonna beat it? Beautiful, crispy little fall day, and a cute little 16, 17 incher there to get things rolling. Let's let them go. See you later. All right, so like we said, there's a couple kind of spots where I look for a lot of these deep water fish in the fall transition like this. And one of these spots is hard to soft bottom transitions, right? Now, what is a hard to soft bottom transition? It's generally where the main break of the lake or a break line comes down and it meets a soft basin, right? And a lot of times, you know, that kind of happens around that 30-foot mark. It might be 25 in some lakes, it might be 35 in some lakes, but somewhere right around, and it's definitely spot to spot, basin to basin, right? But basically, like I said, it's where you have a very hard bottom break, and this might not be like big chunk rock or boulders, this might just be sand, right? And it shows up real bright on your side imaging, and that might meet the softer, very dark looking basin of the lake, which is much flatter and very silty or very muddy and very soft, right? And that'll show up real dark on your side imaging, like we said. And a lot of times these fish will set up right on there. So for example, here's a screenshot right here where you're gonna see is a very defined hard to soft bottom break. You know, here's the soft bottom, here's the hard bottom. Very easy to see that on side imaging. You can even see it on down imaging and sonar as well, but it's very obvious on side imaging. And a lot of times these fish and bait fish will run this transition. So here's a screenshot right here. I got some fish on sonar, and then if you look at my side imaging here, what you'll have is you can see that defined soft bottom, you can see the very defined hard bottom, and those fish are very close to that transition. And like I was talking about bait fish, a lot of times bait fish use this hard to soft bottom transition, and that's what these big clouds are up here. These big clouds are definitely some kind of bait, whether that's small shiners or perch or whatever it is, but it's definitely something real small that's relating to that break. And that's a screenshot that you see a lot when you're working this kind of pattern. It's not a pattern where, like, you know, it's very sneaky spots, which is one reason I like fishing this pattern, because you can be on a crowded lake and nobody will be around those fish that are on those hard to soft bottom exchanges, because you can't just look at a map and say that's going to be the spot right there, right? You know, you can look at a big rock point or a big deep hump and say that looks like a good spot to try, but it's very difficult to just look at a map and find these things. It's a lot of driving around, and most of them will probably be void of fish. There won't be anything, right? But a lot of times what I look for is like a very big basin and then big flat humps, right? That kind of top out, you know, they might be real shallow at the top of it, but that slowly taper out to a very wide basin, and right where that meets the soft stuff is a lot of times where you can find fish, right? Oh, fish on. Feels like another decent one here. Oh yeah, take it, we'll take it. Nothing crazy big, but on this lake, kind of your deep water bite is a lot of times shorter fish for now. For making, that was actually my third cast. And not a big one. Nice little keeper right there. Nothing special. Pitching some deep gravel / rock. Little transition area to soft bottom, which we're gonna talk all about those kind of fall sweet spots when these fish are moving. But there we go, catching them, catching fish. So another type of spot I'll fish in this transition period is deep rock humps, right? A lot of these deep rock humps that are 25 to 30 feet. We did a video last week on fishing this kind of stuff. We were pitching jigs, catching a whole bunch of walleyes doing this, right? And these are kind of definitely the easier spots to get on. And basically what you're doing, you know, looking at a map, finding a lot of those stuff that tops out in that 25 to 32, 33 foot range. And you just go in and look at them. A lot of times these fish will show up real well on down imaging and sonar. And you know, they'll look something like this here. You know, here's a bunch of walleyes set up over this stuff. A lot of times smallmouth like these areas too, so a lot of times you can kind of catch both, and really a lot of big fish like these kind of spots this time of year. And a lot of these deep rock humps, some of them, a lot of lakes will go through a switch once the lake turns over, right? A lot of times at turnover, you might all of a sudden have the rock humps go void and fish are back up on a weed edge, right? Or they come back shallow. The other thing you might have happen if your lake's very deep, you might have fish that were set up in that 30, 35 foot range, and now all of a sudden they're gone and they're in like 50, 60 on the bottom. And I don't really like targeting those fish just because that's too deep for me to wanna, you know, a lot of times it kills them. If you're just going out to keep them, that's one thing. But if you're catching or release fishing, it's good to stay shallower than that. And it's good because a lot of times lakes will have two bites going on after turnover. There might be a real shallow bite, and then there might be a deeper bite, right? So it's kind of cool that a lot of times you can kind of pick and choose in the fall. And in this transition period, definitely before turnover, I do a lot of this deeper water rock hump or hard bottom hump jigging, right? It's real easy to get on good rock. You know, it's gonna look something like this on your side imaging and on your sonar. So super easy to get on, super productive way to fish. And the beauty of it is, if you only have down imaging and sonar, you can see those fish real plain as day, you fish through them and probably catch them. Oh, fish on right there. Just saw that pod, dropped on him, just kind of working over this big long transition here. Yeah, not too bad. He's kind of chin hooked, so he felt even bigger, but we'll take him. Another nice keeper. We're fishing for about 10 minutes. We'd have our limit of eater walleyes. Oh, he's just hooked right under the chin. And a lot of times, I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but you get them right there. They trap that bait right to the bottom of the lake. And that's what it looks like. Not big ones, but catching walleyes left and right. Can't beat it. So kind of the last area I want to talk about where you might find a bunch of fish in this transition time of year is weed edges, right? Fall's a goofy time, like I kind of talked about in the intro, where you can have fish in a variety of different places, and it's not really specific. You know, there's kind of like 3 lakes that I fish a lot. They're all very deep, they're all very clear, and they all have deep rock and weeds. And one of these lakes has a good weed bite going this time of year. The other 2 do not, right? So it's kind of lake to lake and stuff like that. Generally, your shallower lakes will almost always have a weed bite this time of year. Sometimes the deep clear ones will, sometimes they won't. It's kind of lake dependent. But a lot of times what I'm looking for this time of year is fish almost up on the inside weed edge of a lot of this stuff. If your lake's very clear, you might be fishing, you know, walleyes that are in like 7, 8, 9 feet of water, and where that the cabbage edge might start at like 10, 12, 13 feet of water, right, and kind of run out to 20. And that's kind of the other spot that I do a bunch of looking this time of year. This lake that I'm on today doesn't have that kind of bite, but after turnover it'll have that kind of bite. So it's very strange, right? It can be a challenging time of year to fish for that exact reason, because fish can be in so many different locations when you have dropping water temps before turnover, right? But these are all areas that are worth checking. And generally when I'm fishing a weed bite, I'm looking for very big structure because a lot of times it can be needle in a haystack, especially if you have a split of fish, some that are deep and some that are shallow, right? So the best way to get on them is to pick out a very big spot, right? The biggest shallow point that runs out into the basin. Find a good weed edge, look on the inside, look on the outside. Sometimes they might be on that outside too, and mainly around in side imaging. And what you're looking for is side imaging shots that look something like this here. You can see the weeds, you can see the fish, super obvious, right? Whenever you're fishing weeds, side imaging is king, right? Especially when you're in that shallower water, it's like less than 15 feet. So kind of keep that in mind too. You know, that's kind of the third place and probably the least amount of time I spend, you know, of all these things I do in this pre-turnover transition period is the weeds, but we're gonna be doing a ton of that pattern, especially after turnover. Oh, walleyes, walleyes, walleyes on the graph. A lot of fish right there. It's looking convincing. I'm spot locked, pitching back. This is not going to take very long. Honestly, kind of surprised I don't already have one here. But they will bite. Oh, there's one right there. That was bizarre the way that happened. That was weird. It was like I went to yank up my bait. There was like, it was not going back down. Meaning only one thing could be happening. That is a walleye on my line. Oh yeah. Another nice walleye here. Nothing crazy big, but there we go. Catching walleyes. Tough to beat. Nothing crazy big, but can't beat it. Gorgeous fall day. Catching a bunch of eaters. And here we go. Another perky, nice little transition fall walleyes. Can be tough this time of year when fish all of a sudden shoot out of where they have been. And they're kind of on the way to where they're going, but getting it done. Perfect little 16, 17 incher there. See you later, dude. All right, guys, well, that is gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully this is beneficial for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching it. I had fun making it. Not a lot of big fish, but hey, that's okay. We did catch some walleyes. We were only out for about an hour and a half too, so that feels good. And yeah, this could be, like I said, it's a tough time of year to fish. It's just a lot of driving around a lot of times, a lot of following fish, and a lot of times you might be on a really good bite for 2 days, come back and those fish are totally gone, so keep that in mind too. But I do appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully this helped you guys out. You know, I would say the post-turnover bite, once you have water temps kind of 55 and below, is much more stable, right? Everything's kind of locked solid from there, almost to ice up, and normally the bite is very good then, and normally fish are eaten. So I'm excited for that, but in the meantime, we're gonna keep on doing the multi-species things. Might be crappie, might be smallmouth, might be lake trout, might be walleyes, might be muskies, I don't even know. But we're gonna stay on it and keep fishing. So appreciate you guys watching. If you're not yet, please subscribe. Stay tuned for more content, and we'll see you guys next time.